Hello, and welcome to our latest edition of Chambersburg Community Theater's virtual reunion series. My name is Kelly Kozlowski, and I'm the Managing Director of CCT, and we are so excited to have back our 2018 cast of It's a Wonderful Life, a radio play. This production was performed in December of 2018 upstairs in the Wood Center, which was a new experience for us to try a new style of theater in a smaller location. And tonight we're excited to sit down with the cast, talk about their origin stories with the play and with CCT, and talk a little bit about the making of this exciting performance. And after our reunion, we'll talk a little bit about a very exciting and special holiday event that this cast has coming up. So, without further ado, please help me welcome the cast of It's a Wonderful Life, a radio play. Come on in, guys. Hello, everyone. Look at those smiling faces. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to our virtual reunion series. It's so exciting to have you guys. Yay.
Hey, it's exciting to be here.
Happy to be here.
So I want to start off with kind of a little backstory. So this play is different than a lot of what people think of when they think of a regular stage production. I hear, Dawn, that you have been elected to be kind of the spokesperson for this story. So tell us a little bit about what a radio play is, because I understand that it is different than than what most people think of as kind of a straight stage production.
Well, of course, It's a Wonderful Life premiered in, I think, 1946 as a film, and wasn't unusual in the heyday of radio, which was 30s, 40s, and 50s, for popular films to be abridged versions of popular films to be remade as radio plays that people could tune in to listen to, like Bogart and Bacall, I think, did To Have and Have Not.
Yeah.
This was a popular format back in the 1940s, and what they would do, they would get some of the cast members with an altered version of the script, as we've done here, and then present it. Because once the film was out of the theaters, there was no television to watch it on, so radio was the alternative.
That's so cool. And I think the things, and you guys can talk a little bit about this as we kind of get into looking back at the production, but it's a little different than what most people think of as a regular stage production, because you guys there's less movement. It's more focused on the words and the story, correct?
And the sound.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry. That is the most important aspect.
Yeah, instead of typical blocking where you're standing up and moving around, we're typically sitting there, or you stand up when you speak and you have your script right there with you. So the audience can focus on, like you said, the words and what you're saying, and not necessarily, oh, I'm moving stage left and stage right.
That's so neat.
And I think
It's kind of a, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it was kind of when we performed it live, there were many audience members who said that they would go ahead and just close their eyes and actually just experience it only through their ears. And I thought that, and they said it was just amazing. And I thought that was just a really cool effect, that you didn't have to worry about what we were doing on stage. It was all about the presentation of the mind.
Absolutely. That's so cool. So I want to,
sorry. You're going to edit this, right, Kelly? But the nice thing is that, for the actors, it gives them a chance to really use a different muscle, and that, so much as a stage presence, now it's all about their voice. And it gave us the freedom directing to cast, not based upon whether you fit the physical appearance of the character, but whether you could convey the emotions and the essence of the character.
That's
and
so cool.
One of the things that's different about readers theater is that the audience is a very active participant in the event, because they build the scenery and the pictures in their minds. They don't have scenery to look at.
Exactly. That was something that we found a little bit challenging as directors. Like, how do we make this visually appealing so that people didn't necessarily have to close their eyes?
Mhm.
We didn't want to, have everybody just sort of stand behind a screen and just listen and not stare at anything. So we decorated the place in a holiday theme, and we set the stage up as sort of a radio studio with your applause sign and your on the air sign, and we had the sound effects table off to the side so everybody could see how the different sound effects were made instead of just having pre-recorded sound effects. It was a lot of fun putting that piece together, trying to figure out what made a convincing sound.
And I think that's what helped people understand what a radio play is. So many people, when I was saying, "It's a Wonderful Life radio play," they're like, what is a radio play? And even with the explanation, they still don't quite get it. But then people after the show were like, once I saw it, I got it. So I thought that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit. So our wonderful show directors, Sid Tokar and Jeff Leinbach, talk the two of you for us for here a minute about how did this production come to CCT? Was this something that you guys had brought in, or was this something that was kind of thrown at you?
This, when I had been away from the theater for a long time, and when I finally decided to get back into the theater, I got hooked up with a group in Gettysburg, of which Dave Hurlburt was president, our Mr. Gower, and we did It's a Wonderful Life, a different version of the radio play, and it was just such a great experience. I don't like to direct, but I jumped at the chance to do it again because I had such fond memories. And being around the holiday season, we could do it in a much more compact time frame. And we were looking for something at CCT to bring for the holidays that wouldn't be a huge effort, that maybe we could do up in the Wood Center, as opposed to in the past, we'd done sort of a holiday cabaret. We wanted to try something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so cool.
This is a movie that's near and dear to both of our hearts. It's something that we watch several times every holiday season, and we just both love it so much that it was a joy to be able to bring it to the community.
Absolutely. And it's kind of fun to look at something that people are so used to seeing one way in a new light, because it makes you, then when you go back and watch, the original version that you've seen, you kind of see that in a new way too. So it's fun to, look at something that you love through new eyes and in a new way. So that's really cool. So I want to give each of you kind of an opportunity to talk about how you ended up in this production and being a part of this production. So I'll kind of go around my Zoom room here and give everybody a chance. Let's start with you, Matt. What was your kind of introduction to this?
Well, I mean, I was on the show selection committee when we decided to do it, and I was just really intrigued by the format. I liked the simplicity of it. I like the challenge of doing different characters. So when Sid and Jeff were nice enough to cast me in 3 or 4 different roles, it was a lot of fun to just try and figure out the different voices that they would be for that. And so yeah, I like the challenge of it. There's a lot more personal interaction with the audience. Again, like we've already discussed, not in the visual way, it's kind of hard to really describe, what I mean by that, but it's just, there's a lot more from the heart, I think. So.
Sure. Before we go on, you mentioned something that sparked something in my head. You had said about getting to play multiple different roles over the course of the play. Jeff, talk a little bit, was that your goal from the beginning, that each person would be more than one person? Because that's something that's very different than what audiences are used to seeing on stage. One person that usually plays one character, maybe 2 depending on the play, but I know in this one different people are taking on multiple different roles.
Right. And again, that goes back to the idea of we wanted to create that radio station type of feel, in that they didn't have a large room. They couldn't gather an entire cast. So oftentimes they would have a pool of talent, some stars or local folks, and they would play all these different characters. So we like the aspect of that. And, we knew we had a great cast. They would easily be able to handle it.
Yeah, that definitely harkens back to the early days of the original radio plays when they were in the 40s, that you would have multiple different voices with just one person voicing all of these different characters.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, moving around my Zoom room. Dave, I'm up to you. Talk a little bit about what brought you to this production.
Well, of course, I knew of the production since Gettysburg Stage did it, and I'd seen the movie 70 times easily. And that's one of the hardest parts about that is trying to differentiate yourself from whoever did it in the movie, which was Lionel Barrymore. And it's very not hard not to fall into his speech patterns because that's what's stapled up here is his voice. But it's still, a great show to do. And one of my favorite things about playing the heavy is you get to do things and say things to people you'd never have the nerve to do in real life. Nasty as you want, and no one's going to slap you outside the head. And but
at least not till you get off stage, right?
I'm sorry?
I said at least not till you get off stage, right?
Right. One of the other things that struck me during that show is, after the first act, Potter sat there a long time until Gower came on again. And I'm watching and listening, and I realized it just amazed me. We had these books with little black squiggles across the stage, across the page. And as you read those and you created the voice, created the character, you turned that little black squiggle actually into an emotional response from the audience. And that, it was like an ear pop moment, like, oh, wow, I understand. That really made it fun for me.
That's so cool. Dawn, what about you? What had kind of attracted you to this project?
Well, I did need something to do in my spare time, really. I mean, and I used to be an announcer on radio, so it seemed like that was a good fit, since I'm not much of an actor.
You'd never guess that we cast him based solely upon his voice.
It helps. It helps. How about you, Patty?
Well, I heard about the radio show concept and that Sid and Jeff were trying to bring this It's a Wonderful Life to CCT. And I thought, well, I'd like to be a part of that. And I've always felt it, like Sid said, it just isn't officially the holiday season until you watch It's a Wonderful Life. And I think especially this year in 2020, well, we all may feel like perhaps we failed at in some way, but the story reminds us again as we watch it that we have an effect on those around us, and it would be a different world if any of us wouldn't have been born. And of course, I had to slip them a couple extra bucks to get the line of every time a bell rings, an angel gets their wings, but I think it was worth it. I've always wanted to say that. So it was a good experience and a lot of fun.
That's so sweet. How about you, Chris? Oh, Chris doesn't have his mic on.
I don't. Sorry.
Take two.
He's usually a
two.
sound guy. You'd think he'd know.
You would think. I'm forgetful, and it went right with the role, So, but what I was saying was before I didn't have my mic on, or before I had my mic on, that this show is one of my favorite shows to watch of all time, really, especially around the Christmas season. And the fact that it was a radio show, I thought, well, that'll be interesting, So I always wanted to be in this show, just wasn't sure in what capacity. But doing this part, and especially having scripts, and I hadn't done a show in a while, so it was easier to go through it and use your voice, as many of you have stated. In playing 3-4 different roles, especially, I think this radio show was cast with 4 people originally, I believe, 4 or 5 people, so maybe 6, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it takes some talent to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's so cool.
Yep.
How about you, Emily?
Yes, so I was in high school at the time and I was looking for some show to do. I wanted to be performing. I wanted to fill all my time with that. And I had done a production with CCT before and I had a great time and I knew CCT is full of great people. So when I saw that they were putting on It's a Wonderful Life, a radio show, first off, I already wanted to do a production. And then I saw that it was a radio show and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen one of those before. And it sounds like a fun challenge. So I gave it a shot. I tried out and I got in and I met some amazing people and had a great time doing just a fun little holiday show.
That's so cool. That's so cool. How about you, Tom? What brought you, what was an attraction for you?
Well, a radio, it's a radio play, but it's virtually readers theater. And readers theater has always been close to my heart. I've always liked it very much. The challenge there, and as an actor, I like a challenge. The challenge was to be able to distinctly present a clear character to the audience without the assistance of costumes or scenery, just with words and voice. It was a good experience, and I'd like to do more of this kind of theater.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something that people are used to. So I think it's fun to see something that people are familiar with to a degree in a new situation for them. How about you, Tyler?
Well, coming into It's a Wonderful Life, Alexa and I are audition buddies. We love going to auditions together. And I had just finished a musical. I only had done musicals up until that point. And I think you tagged me on Facebook about it and told me how great Jeff and Sid were. So Alexa and I talked and we were like, what do we have to lose? Let's just try it, see what happens. And the audition process was it was just such an easy feeling. Like the room just felt very natural. And like Tom said, and I think Matt said too, just like being able to manipulate your voice was something so challenging and so different, because at times with musical theater, you can hide behind music or the choreo, and sometimes the acting gets lost in translation. Mm-hmm. So to be given a role like playing Clarence, such a beloved role, I was like, okay, got some big shoes to fill. But to date, this has been one of my favorite productions that I've ever been in. So when we heard about the reunion, Alexa and I both texted each other. We were like, we're doing it. Like it was such a good feeling, and I'm very thankful for all the people I was able to meet through this. So
yeah, Alexa, why don't you piggyback on that?
Yeah, so Tyler roped me into it. No.
As I do most times.
It was honestly a very, very last minute decision, an absolutely amazing decision. And I have no regrets, but we were literally just like, Tyler was in college. I was just starting my first year of teaching. So I was like, need something easy to do that's not going to take up an insane amount of time. We were like, well, we're both free tonight. Why not? We went down. I think we were a little bit late too. So we kind of came in and we were like, sorry. And everybody was just kind of like in a circle. And at first it was a little awkward, but then as soon as you walked in, it was like, welcome home. It was Tyler and I's first show, both with CCT. And it was absolutely an amazing experience. And just like everybody has really said already, an opportunity, unlike I think most opportunities that actors get, to experience and kind of experiment with their voice acting.
Definitely. So Jessica, I'm going to come to you. You had kind of a different experience in this. You had a different role than our cast did. Talk a little bit about your contributions to this production.
Well, Sid and Jeff asked me if I would stage manage it, and I said sure, but I didn't understand that meant that I would actually have a role in the play.
Because that's not normally kind of how you play, right?
You know, I hide backstage in my blacks and I just move and manipulate things on stage, but I'm never actually on stage. Mm-hmm. But I like to play with my voice a lot and do weird accents. So I didn't know that I was auditioning when I was just sitting there being myself. So the next thing I know, I'm stage managing, and then I have 2 roles. Plus, on top of that, I got the very cool job of basically being a sound Foley artist on stage. And so we made glass break. We used shoes to sound like walking. I used a comb to sound like crickets. You know, we created all those sound effects that people normally hear when somebody walks across the floor, or in a movie, they'll edit all that stuff in. So it was really just cool to be able to make all those sounds and then also get to act a little bit. That was different.
Yeah. What kind of response did you guys, if any, get from your audiences after the fact about that element of it? The getting to see, for lack of a better way to put it, getting to see the sound, getting to, things like that.
It was really cool, actually. I had a lot of little kids that I would catch watching me and waiting to see, they'd see me get ready and they would look over and I would walk the shoes to them, or I would move silverware and look at them as I moved it. And they just ate it up. They loved it. It was so neat to just be a part of it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the downfall a lot of times of productions is that actors don't get to see the audience, don't get to, they're there and you can hear them, but you don't necessarily get that one-on-one experience. So I think, and you guys can talk a little bit about your experiences, but again, this was a production that was done in a space that CCT really hadn't explored before either. CCT has always, been on the big main stage. And so Jeff, maybe you and Sid can talk to this a little bit. Was the intention from the beginning to put it in a smaller, more intimate space?
Definitely. Creating that small sort of radio studio feeling about it, being able to interact with the audience without, they had just installed some new lights up in the Wood Center, which made it a little bit brighter and prettier up there. But being that it was such a small space, you didn't have like 35 lights shining in your face while you're on stage and not really being able to make eye contact with the audience. So it was a much more intimate space, easier for people to see what was going on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Down in the theater, we're 6 feet above the audience and a good 10 feet away from the last row. Whereas up in the Wood Center, we had a little platform, maybe 6 inches high. So we're pretty much on the same level as the audience. And the front row was within arm's distance from us. So, it created such I don't want to overuse the word, but such an intimate experience for everyone.
And to be able to see the sound effects happening right there. Like Jessica said, it was just so much fun for everybody. We did hear a lot of comments afterward about, oh, that was cool. How did you make this sound? I didn't get to see what they were doing over there. Can I come look at the table? Like people would come up and take a little tour of the sound effects table after
it's
the
like
show.
show and tell.
Yeah.
And I would show them how to do it. And yeah, they did. They loved it. The kids especially, really. And I think the parents didn't want to admit to how interested they were as well, because they were right over the kid's shoulder going, oh yeah, I see.
And the objects, speaking of the sound effects table, the objects that we didn't find, like you can find a handbell, you can find shoes, but Dave Hurlbert and his wife Pam, who also assisted at the sound table, made a lot of the effects. Like they created a frame with some broken glass that would smash over a trash can. And so we'd break a different piece of glass every night.
A miniature half door, so that when you heard the door slam, you got the creak of the hinges, you got the sound of the latch catching in the latch plate, and of course the door hitting the frame. And the dunk tank, don't forget the water tank.
Absolutely, the splash when he falls through the ice at the beginning. That was great.
And thunder, the thunder sheet.
Yeah. As actors, you guys, was that a scary experience for you, having that proximity to the audience that is not the norm?
It was hard for me because you could see at first, because it was funny, you could see the audience look at them. Like they would see us, hear our lines, and then hear Jess and all of her nonsense over there. And because you're so close, you can see them just going back and forth and back and forth. So it's a little hard.
Introduction and a tennis match.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but it's still really cool to see that and hear it over there.
It was definitely up close and personal, and you would hear folks whispering too, back and forth. That it's like, oh, that was really cool. That things like that. It made it a lot of fun.
And
I think it was, at first it was a little intimidating, but also exciting. Just like when you walk out on a normal stage and you see the audience and you kind of get those butterflies. But in a different kind of way, you were really connected with the audience. It felt like a big family dinner where everyone was sitting around kind of telling stories. The only thing that you did kind of have to be more aware of is, because you were so close and because we got to just be ourselves on stage, we were very literally the actors putting on a production, and they knew that. So we could show some of ourselves. But then during some like ad lib parts, if the person next to you said something funny, you really had to kind of keep yourself from laughing too much or from being too much of a distraction from the scene.
Oh, I saw some chuckles there. All right, this is my favorite part of these reunions, because Emily, you triggered it, you started it. So I want the backstage or the onstage scoop. The best part about productions that the audience really never gets to see are the things that make the actors laugh and the funny stories. So Alexa, I saw your little snicker there. Tell me some stories that the audience didn't or might have missed, or kind of give us the inside scoop.
I feel like, I mean, Emily hit the nail right on the head. I mean, with the ad libs, it didn't matter who you were next to, someone was going to say something that was hilarious based off of what you were talking about earlier backstage, and you were going to laugh, or you would make eye contact with somebody across the stage as you're saying something, and it just, you to like, because when you're not on and up at the mic, you're sitting back and on the bench. So on that bench, we're real close and personal with each other. So yeah, it just a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think part of it, obviously, it's based off of the movie, so a lot of the language is 80-year-old language. So there are terms that are used throughout the play that nowadays are funny. that were very, very serious when they were written 80 years ago. But we have to keep the honor of what was written on the page there. And I can't think of any examples. Maybe one of you guys can. One of your lines that is a trigger, and you're just kind of like, yeah, the 12-year-old boy in us comes out, or me comes out.
I think people go from like little boy to big boy, like young George versus old George. That would always make us snicker.
I think
I think Alexa.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Patty.
I think I experienced that 12-year-old boy that Matt was talking about, because I flubbed a line and I thought, oh, no one will notice. And I came back and sat beside Matt, and he went, like real low so I could hear him. And I'm pretty sure Zuzu told him to shut up. I'm pretty sure that's what she said. Yeah.
I think Alexa hit it right on the head, that you would pal around and people next to you would say something funny. I know I sat next to Alexa a lot of the time, and me and Tyler really would kind of pal around, but the entire cast was just one big family that would pal around. But I can't remember exactly what she said, but I know she always said something funny during the like Italian, everyone's like eating in an Italian restaurant kind of scene. And she did this more during rehearsals, but it was the voices she used too, because during the ad libs, you're not a specific character. You can be whoever you want to be. So she would get like this like old Italian man voice and be like, oh, that's a good meatball. And I just how she said it, I just would crack up. And I'm like, Alexa, you need to, I need to be able to keep it together. Like,
that's hilarious. So I found a couple of pictures from the production. So I want to share my screen here, and I only found a couple, but I want to give you guys kind of the option or the chance to talk about what you're seeing. So let me share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so here's the first one. This looks like maybe a rehearsal shot, but this kind of gives the audience a chance to see, looking over Jeff and Sid's shoulders at the whole screen. You can kind of see the benches that you guys were talking about, the mics, as well as Jess's sound table.
Yeah, so couldn't do that in 2020. There's not 6 feet between us.
No, that is definitely not socially distanced.
And you can see the on the air sign up there in the corner on the curtain.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was definitely a rehearsal.
This was one of our first nights upstairs, I think, too. Like,
So
because everything was kind of starting to get set up and together.
Mhm.
And I think kind of just going off of what Emily talked about was that first rehearsal when we were up there, it got real. And it got real in terms of how vulnerable you are, because I don't know, like the shows that I had been in the past, the audience is very darkened by, there's no lights going on out there. But to look out and then be like 6 feet from somebody, I mean, you are aware of every single eye on you, but you're also aware of every single thing you're doing and the people. I mean, you're an inch away from some people. Some days we almost fell off of the benches, and that would have been a fun time. But looking at this, it's crazy because I mean that place was packed. It was packed every night. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
versus being an actor on stage, your character enters and exits. And if you get a little downtime, you can go back into the dressing room, you can chill out a little bit if it's going to be a while, or if you need to crash course a line. Now you couldn't do that up there because the characters were all on stage from the first moment to the last moment.
and that meant that you couldn't like go run out and get a drink of water or have a potty break or whatever. One of the other cool things is that Alexa made us all these beautiful little mugs that said WCCT.
I was gonna say that was originally our like solution. It's like, well, we'll just have these WCCT mugs, and then we're like, just kidding, there's no room.
So everyone had a mug under their bench, and they could take a sip when they wanted to with our little call sign on it.
That's so cute.
Yeah, and looking at that picture, kind of a strange memory, but I saw that I was wearing this like black shirt with some like metallic stripes on it. And behind me, Alexa and Tyler are both wearing black also. And we sat next
to band.
That was the night we all came in and we looked at each other and we're like, we're all wearing black. We all sit together and we're like, we look like an emo band. So we posed with our microphones that were on stage with the spotlight coming down, and it was great. It was a fun time.
All I'm saying is I found it. It's a terrible quality, but we looked like the coolest emo band. Hands on the
Oh,
hips.
look at that.
I think everybody else was like, look at them acting all weird and stuff because we were the youngest.
You young kids.
We thought you were.
Send that to me, Tyler, because they're CCT's Throwback Thursday for next week. I'm telling you, send it to me. Send it to me. That's going to be Throwback Thursday. All right. So I've got another one. I want to give the next one that I have is an actual like from show shot. So I want to share this one with you. All right, take a look at this one. So this gives you a little more, you guys can see, the men in their nice suits and the on-air sign.
Emily, look, I'm probably telling you something about meatballs.
Well, for me, not only I'm standing there reading to the audience, not only did I stand there and do my part, but thankfully I got to get off that stool back there that was so uncomfortable.
So
Suffer for your art.
The moral to this story is if we do this show again in live, we need padded benches.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Like being in church, you have to be uncomfortable to keep from falling asleep.
I was not in danger of falling asleep. Trust me.
That was one other illusion too for the audience. The microphones were just props. So we actually had our body mics on for the sound. So we that was just meant for reference. So I think a lot of people thought that those were actually live mics and they were just toy mics that we picked up and put on the stand.
Right. Nobody needed to know that.
You want to give something behind the scenes.
Give whatever secrets you want. All right, so I've got one more. And this, it goes back to a rehearsal shot, but it has a couple of other different faces in it. So let's take a look at this one. Got the men up there. You can see Tyler and Tom and Chris.
And Mike Reed, who wasn't able to join us, he was our George Bailey. And that's, again, the great thing about radio. We could have this tall, late 40s, early 50s balding man being George Bailey as a kid.
As a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
No,
That's
so
my husband.
so special. So before we sign off, is there anything what's kind of the lasting legacy of this? Because we are I do want to give everybody a preview of what you guys have been working on now that you are all back together. But what do you think is kind of the lasting legacy of this production before we talk about the special event that we have coming up?
I hope the lasting legacy is that the play was so well received by the audience that they would like us to do more of that kind of theater.
Well, because of the craziness of the world, we have had the opportunity this year to do kind of some more readers theater. And as a special treat, we are bringing back this production with this wonderful cast as a virtual production that will be available for our viewers to stream for a 24-hour period. You have 2 chances on Saturday, December 19th and Sunday, December 20th. You guys, starting on Monday, December 14th, you can go to www.cctonline.org and you'll see a button right on the homepage where you can click over and purchase your streaming ability for this production. It's going to be $5 plus a small service fee. And I promise you it is worth it. You will see the bulk of the original cast back in their original roles, recreating our 2018 production in a socially distanced, safe home environment. And it gives you, the audience, the chance to revisit this neat telling of the classic Christmas story from the safety of your own homes, coming to you from the safety of our cast's own homes. So before we sign off, give us just a little snippet of what we can expect this time around, guys.
We're getting the band back together.
I just, it was the greatest experience just to have this wonderful group of people, because we run the gamut of experience and ages here with this cast, and just the fact that everyone could get together and make it feel like this great family. Yeah, that's something we all needed this year.
Well, I personally am so excited to see the final product. I loved the original version when I saw it in 2018. So I'm so excited to see the comeback tour, as we're going to call it. So make sure, everyone, that you go to www.cctonline.org starting on Monday, December 14th to book your streaming tickets for this production. Like I said, you'll have 2 opportunities. You can stream it for 24 hours, either on December 19th or December 20th. Don't miss it. These guys have been working hard the last few weeks to get the band back together and to remount this fantastic production. And there is no better way to cap off this crazy year than revisiting a timeless family tale about redemption and a person's worth, and that every single person has something to give, and that without that person in the world wouldn't be what it is. So thank you all so much for joining me this evening. Please make sure at home that you are following our social media pages and our website for more information. We've got more great things coming up for you in the coming months, but until then, we wish you safety and happiness during this holiday season. And don't forget, tickets go on sale on Monday the 14th for streaming performances on the 19th and 20th of It's a Wonderful Life, a radio play. Thank you guys so much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.